Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. If you've been tuning in, tell a friend if you like it. Tell a friend if you don't like it. That's cool too. Today on the show, I have Max Connery from Blume. I'm really stoked to have him on. The band's great. They're releasing a new album. We're going to get into all of that. Hello, Max.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
You're like
really
one of the nicest people in and out of this place. I'm not going to lie. Not everybody is the nicest person who comes in. Has a lot of ego, and which is totally cool. But you seem like a pretty normal person. Are you? Or are you hiding something?
No. I'd say I'm pretty normal. Yeah. I don't know. I actually just started working here at Lake House too, but the Red Bank location. I've been teaching like piano and guitar lessons, which has been really fun. To like a lot of younger students too, so it's really cool.
Little kids are great.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I had no idea. So if you guys don't know, there's Lake House Recording Studios, and there's also Lake House Music Academy, which does a million things. The studio is a real boutique, special little spaceship, but the Music Academy they do so much in education and so many things. I can't even get into it. They've recently expanded into Red Bank.
Yeah.
Through the Count Basie area there and the Vogel. That's cool. Have you ever taught before?
No, not really. When I was in high school, I did a little bit of my friend Emma and we used to go to the like the Boys and Girls Club, and Fridays after school, and we would like teach them how to play like piano a little bit, but it wasn't really like real lessons, more just like getting them like kids involved in music. But so this is my first time teaching. But yeah, I've always wanted to try teaching. I guess because over the years I've had a lot of teachers who like really were just great, and I guess really helped me get to where I am today, and like really were passionate about teaching, and I always wanted to try to do that too, and like be that teacher for younger kids.
Was it always music teachers or other subjects
I mean,
as well?
Mostly music teachers, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, I always had teachers who were just like were really interested. Like I loved when teachers were really interested in like the kind of music that you wanted to do, and were like very open to helping out any way they could. So, and just like really like when I was really little, like just starting off, just like helping engage the student, and like I mean, I remember when I first started off, like I was just doing like out of the basic books, like playing like Old MacDonald and stuff, and I really wasn't so into it right away, and I kind of always wanted to like quit or not do the lessons anymore. And then I remember eventually like my teacher started helping me learn like Beatles songs or like Coldplay songs, who I was really into at the time, and that was like what really got me into doing music, and then that kind of changed everything. So yeah, I just think like teaching is like a really cool way to like, I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun with it so far.
In education, in the pedagogy of teaching, that's called a hook.
Yeah.
And it's everything. I taught for some years, not music, and it's all about the hook.
Yeah.
You can try and teach someone, but if they're not interested at the beginning, if there's not a feeling that they care about either the subject or you, even as a person, sometimes you'll have such an amazing teacher that the student will just want to do well for them, which is a beautiful thing. But to have that hook, and you're absolutely right. I remember the few music teachers I had when I was younger outside of school, there was no hook. We were just sort of going through the Mel Bay books and all of that, and I didn't have the focus or the patience to care. I didn't practice. I would memorize something and play it.
Yeah, me too.
I assumed that was transparent to them, that I wasn't really working on it, and I just fell by the wayside. It wasn't until years later, and the funny part is my mother was a guitarist, but I never really asked her to show me any guitar. We don't look to our parents until maybe we're much, much older. Before that, it's just like rejection of parents. And she said, "Yeah, I'll show you what I know." And that was my real start. But in elementary school, I did have that. The music teacher, maybe in 5th grade or so, Mrs. Fowler, if you're out there in the universe, Mrs. Fowler, you were awesome. It was a standard school music class, but she would gig on the side. I remember she came in once and like had a CD or a tape. This is pretty a long time ago, but and I was like, what? Like, you can, like, a normal person can do that?
Yeah.
I just thought that was like stars and who you heard on the radio, and you could just make your own record. And it really was, as far as thinking about music, it was transformative. And from that day on, I remember how I had like such an artistic crush on her. It was like, oh my gosh, I guess I could do this.
Yeah, totally.
Because so many people played around me, but to actually do something with it, I didn't know anyone who had done anything other than play, perform in church, and of course that's important, you know. For a lot of people, that's the only thing that's keeping them there. Praise it. And it can't be overstated, the importance of teaching. So are you teaching theory?
So
how does that work? Yeah,
so right now, most of my students are like between like 6 and 10, and have never taken lessons before. And then I do have 2 students who are like my parents' age, like older, and they're actually in like the adult group at Lake House. So that's been really fun too, because both of them have played a little bit before, so they know the basics, and it's more like I'm helping them with the songs that they're doing in the group, and also like the older guitar student, we're getting into like improvisation and different like chord inversions and stuff. So that's been really fun. But with the younger students, it's more, I guess it's more. I mean, it's more like here's the notes on the piano and like the very, very beginnings. And so far we've been going out of the book, but we've also, because they're also in like the Get Started groups, so you know we'll work on like an Imagine Dragons song or something, and they like that a lot, or you know, just trying to find different ways to like, you know, keep them engaged and stuff. But yeah.
What was your gateway? Who was your gateway band or person or teacher that really set you off on your path to want to not just tinker, but like, oh, okay, I think I want to get serious about an instrument and also write music, which is a whole nother fucking thing.
Yeah.
How did you make that transition? Who or what was the thing?
So when I first started taking lessons, I was like 6. And it was through, I used to live up like in North Jersey, and it was through my school. Like once a week, this guy would come in and would, like, you know, you would go to class for like a half hour and like take piano lessons with him. And I did that from like 1st to 4th grade. And I think like in 3rd or 4th grade was when we started working on like the Beatles and like Coldplay stuff. And so that was really big for me. And then when I moved down to this area, I'm not even sure if Lake House was a thing yet, but if it was, like, I think it was just starting off and I didn't know about it, but there was the School of Rock in Red Bank.
Oh yeah, on Monmouth Street.
On Monmouth Street, yeah. So that was when I because those were my favorite movies too. The Jack Black movies were my favorite movies.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
He's good. I sometimes want to hate on the cheese level of some of that stuff, and I'm like, no, it's just good.
Yeah, it's really great. So when I moved down here, I started, like, I was in one of like the groups they had at School of Rock, and so that was when I first like really started playing with a band. And then I did another music program in Red Bank for a while called Rocket, and that's actually where I met like Danny and all the Sonic Blume bandmates. And I had 2 teachers there that really, for me, I think like changed a lot for me. Like my guitar teacher Zach, and my piano teacher Dan. So Dan kind of was the first person to like really get me into like encouraging me to write music. And he also showed me a lot of really cool, like Elliott Smith. Like I found it through him when I was like in 8th grade, I think, honestly. And then like that was a big deal for me. And he taught me a lot of like music theory, and so that was really helpful. And then Zach too, on guitar, he was just like, for a while it was like learning guitar, but then he also was just like, he was in a few bands here in Asbury, like Remember Jones and like Shady Street Show Band. So and like he got us our first gig at like House of Independence, and I would like make demos, and then I would like bring it into him in our lessons, and then like he would show me different mixing techniques, and more than just guitar. Like he was really invested in helping me grow as just a writer and like all that stuff. So I really appreciated that.
It sounds like you had a pretty special path. I really don't know too many people who really from early on had a kind of a curated experience.
Yeah.
Of course, what you make of it is all about you.
Mm-hmm.
But just to have like the infrastructure
totally
all the way along, that's pretty amazing. I really don't know anyone who's had that. And maybe that's more of a thing that happens these days. Like, I don't even know. I could think about my own path, and it was so scrappy and weird. That's really beautiful. And it sounds like it was all people you trusted as well.
Definitely. Yeah, my mom always said, because when she was like in 7th and 8th grade, she had a few acoustic guitar lessons, but she always said that there was no place like Lake House or School of Rock for her to really, do that kind of thing. So she just like lost interest and stopped playing. So yeah, I think like these programs that are around now are really great, because I don't know what it was like back then, but it definitely helped me a lot.
Well, let me tell you, Max, there was a time when that's cool. It's different things, and no matter what environment you have, whether it's chock full of support or it's chock full of garbage, ultimately it's you. It's in you to take it past the thing. And it sounds like, you've definitely taken it past. When did Sonic Blume? When did you guys sort of really come into your own? Like, when did you kind of course you had this support, and that's beautiful, but obviously at some point you're like, okay, we're creating our own identity. I'm recognizing some patterns in my writing, and we have a sound. When did that happen, and how did it happen?
So we started the band my freshman year of high school, and at first we were just doing like cover songs that we liked. Like there's a lot of like MGMT, Tame Impala, like Death Cab for Cutie, and then maybe like the Smiths and the Cure as well. But at first we were just doing cover songs, playing together, and maybe we'd do like a few open mics. And then I also really wasn't that comfortable singing yet, so it was mostly like weird instrumental covers of the songs. And then we played this Battle of the Bands at Danny's high school, and actually, so John Liedersdorf was one of the judges, and I remember we did like an instrumental cover of, it was like weird like synths and stuff and like fuzz bass, this instrumental cover of Flashing Lights by Kanye West and some other songs. It was like a really weird set. But John like came up to us after, and he was like, "Were those originals?" And we're like, "Oh no, they're all covers." And he was like, "You guys have a great sound. Like, when you do start writing, like, let me know, and then you should come down and meet me at Lake House." I was like, "Okay, cool." And I don't know, we had really never thought about, which is like weird to say, but we had really never thought about writing songs for the group. So I think that summer, like between my freshman and sophomore year of high school, we started writing a little bit, making a few demos, and yeah. So then I think we came down here and we met Eric Romero, and we did the first EP, which was kind of like way more like the shoegazy kind of thing that we were into at the time, like My Bloody Valentine and like Slow Dive.
Shout out to Slow Dive. That's good shit.
Yeah, I love them. So yeah, I mean, like in early high school, we kind of always knew, I think, what kind of sound we wanted to have. And for a while too, we were just a trio. So it was like I was just playing with a bunch of like reverb and delay on my guitar just to make it sound like we almost had to play that kind of like slow divey style, just because as a trio, like just one guitar, like it took up a lot more space and like sounded a lot fuller than just, you know.
Yeah, it's tricks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great trick too, and especially if you're not at this time comfortable singing, you have to really fill a lot of space to make it sonically interesting.
And at that point, I had started singing, but at the same time with the vocals too, like, you know, a lot of the vocals were really washed out and was a lot like thicker than, you know, just clean vocals, I guess, you know.
So that's when you met Eric Romero?
Yeah, when we did the first EP here, like back in I think it was the summer of 2017. We did like 3 days here with him, and that was when we met him. Yeah,
we were doing a shoot here for something, he and I, and that was really like the first pushing off point for the idea of this podcast. I was like, hey man, I think I was just looking for approval, because I'm a human and we need so much approval. I was looking for some approval. I was like, I got this idea for this podcast and blah blah blah, and I think I was just looking to bounce it off him. And he's like, yeah, and we're talking. I was like, all right, well, if I do it, you're the first guest. Okay. And very quickly after that, this thing jumped off, and Eric Romero was the first guest. Yeah. It was a great show.
It was great, yeah.
I learned a lot about soccer. And when I think about soccer, it's like I think about him, I think about his dad, even though I've never met his dad. And it's really just what this medium, this format is all about. Like, you can't go that deep with quick texts or quick interviews or sound bites or digestible clips, even though all those things are important, are necessary, and are can be creative as hell in their own way. But I really like to go deep. So Eric has been with you guys and worked with you a long time. So your band is now signed. You're on Shore Points Records, and your first album is coming out in like a couple weeks.
Yeah, August 13th.
All right. So Eric produced this album. So your first signed studio album. Talk about that.
So last year, honestly, I guess we'll go further back. We've been talking to Shore Points, like John and Rich and all them, for a few years now. Like, I guess after the first EP, honestly. And there was like a long time of like the label becoming a thing, and I guess us being ready to do that. But so we had started writing a good number of the songs for this record like in 2018. And so when we put out those 3 singles, Aubrey, Pink Boots, and Raincoat, in 2019. So when we did that recording session, we had planned on doing like those 3 songs that weekend, and then the rest of the record 2 months after. But I guess in between then, the label, like us signing to the label, became way more of a realistic thing, and we ended up postponing that for a while. So we signed with Short Points, I believe, last spring, like maybe like last March, like right before the pandemic. And it was honestly such a great timing for us too, because if we hadn't signed to them, like I don't really know when we would have been able to record the rest of this record.
The world was shutting down.
Yeah,
and it was not an optimistic time. And
no,
our industry completely decimated over the months and months. So yeah, you had an interesting injection of energy and promise right at the time when the opposite was happening.
Exactly.
For most.
Yeah, it was like, I hate saying it was like it worked out good for us, because like, it definitely, so much bad happened, and but with the pandemic, like our drummer Danny, he goes to Drexel, so every summer he has to do a internship, and his internship got canceled that summer, and we all had way more free time with everything, so we were able to start recording the record again the end of that summer, and we finished it in December of last year. But so after we signed, there was like a few months, like I guess like April and May, where we weren't like able to practice again until the summer, because we were all like still on lockdown. But I had started writing some songs. One of them would be like Lucy, and our next single is coming out. Today's the 1st. And both of those songs were very different than what we have done in the past. It was, kind of a new direction for us. And
how so? And who's responsible for that? Like how does that work? How does an artist change direction and have the faith to know that it's the right direction?
Yeah. So I think a few things had happened there, like that came in play during that. I had just done like my first like semester and a half or 2 semesters of college, and when I went to school, I honestly like found a lot new music, like mainly the Velvet Underground I got really into, and also like hip hop. Before then I was really only into like Childish Gambino and like some like Kanye, but I really got into like a lot of the 90s stuff, like Wu-Tang Clan and Tribe Called Quest and all that stuff.
Wu-Tang.
Yeah. Yes. And there's a lot of new, like Joni Mitchell was another big find for me, and like Nick Drake.
Nick Drake, what's that, 5 Leaves Left?
Yeah.
Is that the name of the one record?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite albums.
He's great.
Period.
Yeah. I'd always heard about him. I think I knew like Pink Moon maybe.
Yeah.
But when I really listened to Pink Moon and the whole album, and Brighter Later, I think that's the other one, and it's just beautiful, and it's really cool, because it's honestly very ahead of his time. I feel like nobody
sounds like Nick Drake.
Yeah.
You can't cover his songs if you try.
No,
I mean, the bit I've studied about him. For those of you who don't know, Nick Drake, he took his own life young. I don't think he ever even played a show.
Yeah.
He put out 3 records. The one I referred to and the 2 that you referred to. And he has this style of playing guitar. The tuning, it's just his own. There's no like, oh, let's play a Nick Drake song. Nobody's going to play a Nick Drake song. No one knows even how the guitars are tuned. And it doesn't matter, and it's not for its own sake. It's like his voice. It's the story, the tuning, and his strumming, and the melodic structure and the chord changes are the song. It's like when you listen to certain Bob Dylan things. It's just like this one singular voice, and it's so powerful. And Nick Drake's music, it's so beautiful. His voice. He's so fragile. Clearly, he had a lot of issues in his life to take himself to that tragic spot that he did. But those songs are so beautiful. I love Nick Drake.
Yeah,
and he's encouraging when you're trying to be creative and outside the box, but not in a flashy way. Because there's a million ways, especially now with everyone. I mean, there's no sound or thing you can't do at your fucking laptop. We're not talking about that. It's so much deeper. It comes from a really spiritual place, and how he plays his guitar. It's like some other voice.
Yeah.
Playing, and just the picking. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I would never dare touch a Nick Drake song. I
No,
wouldn't
of
even
course
attempt
not.
it. Oh yeah, really beautiful. I
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing him up.
Yeah.
I don't know who really knows about him.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me he was lost in history forever until I didn't even know. I guess one of his songs got licensed long after his death.
Yeah.
To like a Volkswagen commercial or something.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that sort of brought him back
Yeah.
into the mainstream. And I think once you hear him, you're like, who the fuck is this?
Exactly. I know he was also in his song Fly. I think it was Fly. Was in the Wes Anderson movie, Royal Tenenbaums. That was kind of what got me into him too.
Oh right.
Yeah, and that soundtrack. That sound.
That's right. Yeah, his music kind of has that like
oh, of course.
It's so Wes Anderson, except there's nothing quirky about Nick Drake's music. Wes Anderson can make various things become his own flavor. He's brilliant in that way. Royal Tenenbaums is like so good.
Such a great movie, and honestly, probably my
So
favorite
funny.
soundtrack ever too. It's like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it's like Velvet Underground. I know is on there. The Beatles, Ruby Tuesday by the Rolling Stones, my favorite Stones song. Nick Drake. It's really really good.
Yeah, talk about just curating your own, you taking other things and making it feel different.
Yeah.
Through the imagery. He's great film director. The
Totally.
editing is great. Everything's great about Wes Anderson
Yeah.
films. I'm not always in the mood for them, which I think is a mark of really great art.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're always in the mood for it and it's always great and it's always good, that's sort of the nature of pop. And pop is great too, but pop recycles endlessly through time. Yet some things are forever, and I think Wes Anderson and Nick Drake and Bob Dylan we mentioned, of course. There's so many things that are forever, and really beautiful, man.
Yeah, totally. And see, one of the two songs that I had, one of the few songs I had written during that period was Today's the First, which is in like a weird, more like Nick Drake style tuning too. And it's that's also, I know people haven't heard that song yet, but that song is probably the most far off from our older music, with more of an acoustic like ballad, kind of like mid 90s Radiohead style, kind of like the Benz era. And I think just like listening to a lot of like Nick Drake and Elliott Smith and like Phoebe Bridgers and Joni Mitchell, kind of, it gave me like sort of confidence or like encouragement to try to write better songs, because a lot of the music like in the style that we were making on like our first two EPs, it's more just like about the the instrumentals and like the overall like vibe of like the the production and the sound and everything. And I think on this record with a lot of the songs, I really wanted to try to up like this, the songwriting and the melodies and the lyrics, like mostly.
I think that's big of you to notice that, to be self-aware. And there's nothing wrong with music that just, like you say, has a vibe that makes you feel good, and it doesn't necessarily, you're never thinking about if it's droning on too long or what the lyrics are, or whether you can sit and entertain someone with an acoustic guitar,
of course,
with it, be it someone who likes that kind of music or your grandmother.
Of course.
Like, you don't think about those things.
No,
and that's totally fine. There's a ton of music I like just for the vibe, but that's a huge leap. I'm glad you brought that up. And so who was it, the influences that you were listening to, or was it sort of the people around you? Who was pushing you to be like, no, that's not a song yet? That's not a song yet. You're like, wait, normally it would be, but maybe you're right.
You know what it was? So I think it was definitely the influences that I was listening to, but also this was like at the beginning of the pandemic, and we weren't seeing each other or practicing. So I sort of had, I guess, more freedom and less pressure to like bring a song to practice tomorrow and and like finish it before our next practice. Like, I had more time to work on it, and I really wasn't thinking like, oh, how's this gonna work with the band? How, what kind of beat is Danny gonna play on the drums? Like, what kind of synth part is gonna go here? It was really just like me in my basement writing the songs, and then a few months later, like during the summer, when we finally like were able to get together and play together, I had sent some like voice recordings or demos I had made to them, and it was like, I'm thinking I want to try something like this. And I don't know, I mean, I think a big part of it is we hadn't played together in so long, but when we got together and tried playing these songs, it kind of felt like we were like just starting the band again, like in a really good way. Like it was, we were playing together so well, and like there was so much energy and just like excitement about all the music.
It felt more urgent.
Yeah, I think so. And it just felt, I don't know, it just felt like we were, really excited to like get back in the studio and like finish this record. Yeah, I guess a lot of urgency. It was really cool.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Typically, artists having urgency is really not part of the process.
Yeah.
Too often, and there's definitely nothing wrong with getting in a room with some people and cranking some amps and some delay pedals and just, and it feels good. It's fun. It's if unless you're subpar at it, it usually sounds pretty good. But you're talking about something very different. There's a difference between a song and that thing we're talking about.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
a huge growth point. And you guys haven't even really been doing it terribly long, right? You don't mind me saying,
Yeah, our first EP was like 2017, so yeah, not that long ago.
So that's huge.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. When does is that your favorite song on the album? The one you mentioned? Say the title again.
Today's the first.
Today's the first.
Yeah, that song, and then probably the third single, Happy, are my two favorite.
When does the next single come out?
July 9th.
I don't know when this podcast is going to air. What's today? I don't even know what the hell the date is today.
The 24th, I think.
Yeah, you're right. The 24th. Yeah. So this will probably air in like 2 weeks.
Cool.
So it'll
probably around the same.
All right, so you might be able to hear this song right now, but right now, Lucy is available. What made you choose, and who chose? Maybe it wasn't you who chose that as the first single.
Yeah, we kind of thought Lucy was just a good, like, getting back into the swing of things song. Like, it had been a while since we had put out our last single, and we just kind of wanted to like ease back into it, and we thought this was like a fun song, mainly because it was fun, and that was really the real reason behind it. I also do think it like lyrically and as a song, it's like definitely improved upon a lot of our earlier stuff. So I thought it was a good like middle ground between some of our older stuff, newer stuff, and
it's a bit of a bridge.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's cool. What are you guys planning for marketing and I only bring that up because we were talking in the green room earlier just about just ways to market and little things. You brought up Joe Perella and Joe P for all y'all and his masterful TikTok video, his TikTok mastery, and how he was I loved and hated him at the same time. I'm like, this fucking guy is just putting out like snippets of songs. Clearly these songs are not written, and he's just putting out like riffs and just a hook or just a verse. Of course it's well done. He's a killer. I like just about every single thing he does, but I thought that was interesting, and we were talking about how he was putting these things out and doing them well. It looked cool. What was he was out in his backyard doing a lot of videos, like in the fucking snow, lip syncing along, but he had the full setup with the microphone. Like it just looked good, and it looked very him. Didn't remind me of anything else, which is always a nice thing in art when you're not instantly reminded of something else. And how he parlayed that into getting feedback off the internet and the TikTok community. You were saying as to which snippets were good enough for him to finish And I thought that's brilliant, and I hated him for it. So I'm like, damn, I have all these snippets. I've never done a damn thing with them. I thought you had to finish a song. Yeah. Clearly not. So shout out to Joe P. Well done, sir. What are you guys doing as far as marketing, and what frontiers are there these days? I'm an old guy, so I'm not really plugged into what's about to come next. Where are things headed with marketing and social and video, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, like, to be honest, like, I'm not so like great at that either, but you know, I think Instagram obviously is like, I mean, for us, that's like our main platform that we use a lot. And we're trying to get on TikTok now. I have it like my own personal TikTok, but I really don't use it that much. And but Danny is on it a lot, so we've been posting a little bit on our like Sonic Blume band TikTok account, trying to get better at that.
So I totally hear you. Like, yeah. I'm technically in charge of the marketing for the studio, and I'm not really sure what I should be doing.
Yeah,
I really am not sure. I try my best, and it sounds like I think you're similar. You're hoping that someone flies in like some fucking media angel.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
I was reading recently, really, as far as like, prospects for certain industries and jobs, and really the person or persons that can come into a situation, be it an artist, be it a recording studio, be it a dentist office, like whatever it is, a library, and really be the mastermind behind creating content, chopping it up, putting it into various formats, so some in social media, some in print, some in audio, some in video, some on LinkedIn, some on the fucking local newspaper, like whatever it is, and just having a plan for that and being able to execute it. That person or persons, if you're out there, first of all, please call me and help. It sounds like Sonic Blume, we could use some help too.
Yeah.
But that skill set is so important. I'm realizing it now. I was thinking about interns here, and quite honestly, I'm like, I think I'd rather have someone who maybe doesn't even know a fucking thing about recording or even music, for that matter, but someone who's like really like voracious about creating content. So if you're out there too, please call.
Yeah. One thing we've been trying to do is we've just been trying to have as much content as possible to use. For each of the singles, we created like live recordings, but like in different ways, different settings. And that was something we had never done before. And also, I think in the past, we just took social media like way too seriously, and I think social media is supposed to just be fun. And I think one thing we've been trying to do while marketing this record and these singles is just show more of ourselves. Because a lot of my favorite artists that their social media pages are really just like them fooling around all the time. And I think for the longest time we just wanted to always be like, it has to be serious and we have to look professional. But I think a big part of it is just like letting your followers like really see who you're actually like. And I think while marketing this record, we've been trying to be more like down to earth, I guess, or just more personable, and then also just have a lot more content. In the past we really didn't have that, but we did that like lampshade session thing that's coming out tomorrow, and we have some like stripped down versions that we recorded, and we just want to make a bunch of different videos like that, and even maybe do a podcast or something like that, a band podcast. So just try to have a lot of different content and different ways for our fans to consume.
I'd be happy to have you guys on, so you could.
Oh yeah,
you can put that in your pocket.
I was more saying like we were thinking of doing our own like band podcast with like other artists too. We were saying.
Oh great.
Yeah, and we've been talking about it for a while, but like it would, I think we need to really like just do it.
Well, you make a good point. It's very easy to be precious about things, and then as soon as you're precious about something, that means you're analyzing it.
Yeah.
And you could, I know I can, you get into a spiral, and the analysis, the introspection, the critiques are endless. It's just like in music. I mean, you could sit, and I'm sure you know people, like they'll be mixing a song for like 4 years. Like, it's not ready yet. It's like, dude, there's nothing you could do in this mix that's going to change whether people like this song or not. You fucking with the drum delay is just not going to really have the impact you think it does.
No, of course.
But it's easy to fall into that, and I think it's one of the ways that we subconsciously hold ourselves back.
Yeah. No, it's all inhibiting. Like, for previous, like, you know, music we put out, we've tried to, it was like, you know, all the pictures have to be like black and white, and and it's just like bullshit. I don't know. It's kind of like bullshit in the end of the day. I think it's just really, it should really just be like it shouldn't really be that thought out in that sense. It should be more just in the moment.
Yeah, unless you have like a serious team of people who are curating your thing, but like, who has that?
Yeah, exactly.
None of us have the money or the time, or maybe even the spirit for that. But I mean, content, it's the most disposable pop thing on planet Earth. So who cares?
Yeah,
I can't remember. I can, but I could count them probably on one hand. Posts I remember from people.
Yeah.
So that means there's thousands that just come through, and if they make me smile or make me go, oh, that's interesting, that's great. I'm gonna forget it tomorrow, but having that moment allows me to connect with that artist or that conversation or that group or that company or that family just for that moment. And that's what we need as humans. We just need those quick bursts, the reminders, you know, like, hey, I'm still here and here's what's going on. Like, no one's judging it because everyone's putting out everything, and it's all, most of it's ridiculous anyway, because we're humans and we're ridiculous. We're ridiculous people if we really analyze all the things we do and our patterns and the things we worry about and the things we say. I was telling you today, my patience was gone with my children. I was saying all sorts of ridiculous shit. I'm so over it. But tomorrow, it's like, it's not going to matter, and we move on. So it's important. You bring up an important point of not being precious and just doing it. Like, unless you create something that's so fucking terrible and offensive, like the whole world wants to chop off your head. Yeah. Or maybe that's a smart marketing move. Like, I don't know. Controversy sells, unfortunately. I think that's the driver behind most things that go through Facebook is really just things that make people feel anxious, worried, or, well, at least I'm not that. It's terrible. I can't even get in that game. I'm very removed from most social media. Certainly in the Facebook world. Like, how do you interpret that? So you're a young person. I'm an old person. Am I sort of like overreading it?
No, I mean, to be honest, like, in terms of social media, I really only use Instagram and I guess like Snapchat too, but that's sort of different. But a lot of my friends are on Twitter a lot, and I never really got into Twitter. The app was always like really confusing for me to use. So,
you sound like an old guy.
Yeah,
I like
really
that,
do. But one thing, I'll go on Twitter occasionally, and something I sort of notice on Twitter is people seem to like really latch on to certain groups or ideas, and either for the better or for worse. And it's a really weird thing where it's like, you know, you'll talk to people. I'll talk to a friend of mine, and they'll be talking about this thing that's on Twitter and how all these people just like get really into that and like passionate about whatever is going on. And it's all just it doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know.
You just feel like it's like there's a vacuum and there's like this group think.
Yeah,
that's dangerous. Ugh,
exactly.
it's fucking sickening. My father, you know, my father and I, we rarely saw eye to eye growing up.
Yeah.
And probably still. But he did instill one thing. I think it was like kind of the punk rock ethos, really, even though he can't stand most music. He's like, look, if you notice there's a huge amount of people kind of going one way, that should be a sign that maybe that there's a problem. Like, he instilled it early, and it was problematic for me to synthesize that in my head, because most of the time when you're young, you're really trying to fit in some way. So I struggled with that concept, but it was the most important lesson in the world. Like, red flag, everybody's saying this.
Yeah.
Huge red flag. And that doesn't mean you have to fight it or even make a scene, but just ask some fucking questions.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. Like, people wanting to, I guess, fit in, like, is really a good way to say it. And, you know, it's like, oh, I have to post this because everyone else is posting it, or like, I have to post this because, you know, people will like my post, or people like my social media posts, and it's just, it's like kind of scary. It's like, and sometimes that's good. Like, sometimes, you know, you're posting that for a good reason, but I find a lot of the times, people will post something and it's just completely artificial. Like, they don't actually believe that, they don't actually mean that, and it's more just to, like, you know, look the part, or like, you know, fit in or something. You know?
Oh, that's the worst. They're trying to have that thing reflect back on themselves.
Exactly,
There's a term for that. I forget what it is. It's a cool term too. I recently learned it. But yeah, you're saying, doing, usually posting, because it's so much safer, right? You can just do it, and like, these are rarely people who are standing up in a room and looking you in the eye and saying, hey, I want to say something to you. And it might be great, it might be controversial, and I'd like everyone to listen for a second. I want to make a case for something. It's rarely that. It's really just like you're putting it out there in this artificial world, and I think a lot of times people are just trying to make themselves look cool. It's usually pretty fucking transparent.
No, totally.
Too. I see it,
I think
obviously, so, all the time. And I'm like, you're pretty much just trying to show off, like, how good you look today.
Yeah.
Or that you're empathetic to, I don't know, something that, most people fucking are empathetic to that too. Like, there's a very small amount of people who are against that.
Yeah.
And that's quite normal. You don't need to, like, really, really connect with it in that way and share with your friends and how hurt you are. It's like, life is complicated. We're all dealing. I'm sensitive to that too. And obviously I'm being a little judgmental of it as well. So, you know, that's my problem. But I struggle with that, because I get, like, pissed. I think I like brave people who are either totally fine shutting the fuck up about something, or about standing up, being like, I kind of disagree with that, and here's why. Like, you know, you do that in a room, I think that's powerful, and I think that's brave. Whether you're right or wrong, because who's right all the time? Who's wrong all the time? Who's good all the time? Who's evil all the time? Like, those people really don't exist. I mean, there's a couple saints and there's a couple psychopaths, but most of us we're just a blend of everything that's in the middle. And I wish I could remember that term. It was such a cool term. Get, like, tattooed across my head. But yeah, there's a lot of movements and all this, but really, what did Gandhi say? You know, be the change you want to be in the world. So you don't have to post something. You could just live that life. Yeah. And it's going to amplify in a normal way, which is just going to be to your closest friends and family, and half of them can't stand you for it, and some are going to listen, and maybe to a couple of your friends. Like, that's the best you can do. Yeah. Normal people, we don't really have a bully pulpit. We're not a politician. No, yeah. Artists do, to an extent, but art right now is so flooded with people doing the thing that you're talking about that I think it all just washes out. Especially with conversations around equal rights and race and gender and all these things. It's like, yes, most of us sort of just agree with those things. I think they're a given. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't meet too many people. Yeah. I don't really meet anyone who's like against that. Yeah. Who's like against all these basic things. I mean, once in a while, but they're like clearly, all right, well, and even that person, it's like, I don't know what their upbringing was like. I don't know what their parents were like. Yeah. It's like, hey man, okay.
And I think like the scary part about it is, it's like when, I mean, I guess, well, I, like, you know, it's definitely, like, I think it's just more important to, like, you know, if you believe in something, like, actually to do something instead of just, like, you know, sharing it on the story. But then the scary part is, like, when you get upset because other people don't do it too, you know?
Oh, God.
And, like, that's the part that, like, kind of bothers me the most. It's just when, like, they say, you know, hey, like, you know, why didn't you do this or do that? And it's just, like, it's kind of weird.
Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Don't you agree? How come you didn't do the thing that we're all doing?
Yeah.
Well, that is a signal. That is a gigantic flag and a signal of an insecure, uncertain, weak person.
Yeah.
Because if you're confident and you have conviction, and that doesn't mean that you're not constantly questioning your convictions. That's an important part of growing up and being a thinking human. But those people don't do that.
Yeah.
They get, like, even like with the crazy fucking racist guy who lives down the street from me. I'm like, you know what? You're just a dude doing your thing. I have no idea why you feel like it's okay to talk to me in this way. I just am like, well, I don't feel that way, but I don't know anything about this guy's upbringing. I don't need to, like, I don't need to talk about him on the internet, okay? Like, I've got my own demons and my own nasty shit. And just like every other human, like, it's A-okay.
Yeah.
The best you can do is just, you know, just be kind to people. And even if they're spouting some crazy shit, like, unless it's like a debate, like, we don't need to gang up on people. Because there are certainly several things in my life that I'm not proud of. Mm-hmm. And that some of these folks out there could gang up on and just cancel my ass. Mm-hmm. But chances are the same goes for them. Like, there's not so many saints.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure if there's any. I think we're all kind of in the middle. It's interesting to talk with you about this. I haven't really gone down this hole too often, like maybe at night, like in bed with my wife. And but, like, you know, she's probably sick of hearing these conversations, and she has her own feelings about it. But it's nice to talk to someone else about it.
Yeah, totally.
So what are we going to do about it, Max? How are we going to fix this? Well, we'll just be our best selves.
Yeah, of course.
And understand where we're at. What were the first, like, bands that you heard? I could think of my own that you were like, fuck.
Yeah.
I want it. Like, just total hero worship. Like,
yeah.
I'm in. Like, what were those artists for you, and how old were you?
Yeah, so always, like, growing up, when I was, like, even, like, really little, in the car, my mom always played, like, The Smiths, The Cure, R.E.M., like, New Order, like, all those bands. And so I always loved that music. And then even, like, some, like, newer alternative rock, like The Shins. I mean, newer, like, you know, mid-2000s, like The Shins, Arcade Fire.
Oh, yeah.
MGMT, like,
Arcade
all that stuff.
Arcade Fire's heavy band.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
That's another level.
And then, yeah, so that was, like, really big for me. I always listened to, like, my parents' music growing up. Like, and then, because, like, my dad, too, like, my stepdad, like, always had Joy Division or, you know, Zeppelin, like, all so
Joy Division.
Always that.
My first band
really, yeah, it
was named after a Joy Division song.
Oh, wow.
So when I was in 4th grade, we had a band, so my buddy Mark and I. Shout out to Mark Manning. You should research Mark Manning. His music is out there. Oh, I'm forgetting. Everything is Fine. He's released a lot of music under the name Everything is Fine.
Cool.
Mark Manning, incredible artist and musician out of San Francisco now. But this was my guy growing up. So we started writing songs in 4th grade. The name of our band was The Eternal. So we stole it from a Joy Division song.
That's sick.
I was steeped in that. You're speaking my language. This is hysterical. The Cure, The Smiths, and R.E.M. were my... they were my guys. My first rock and roll show was Morrissey.
Oh, wow.
The Smiths had broken up.
Yeah,
I'm not that old. I mean, I'm like 2 years away from being that old, so I'm so full of shit. But the Smiths broke up, and it might have been like his first solo tour.
Gotcha.
That was my first rock and roll show.
Yeah.
I had seen maybe some folk shows with my mom. I saw Peter,
That's
Paul,
cool.
and Mary.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
And some other things, tons of church music. But Morrissey was my first show, and I saw REM a bunch of times. Morrissey played in Asbury a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
It
and
was
actually,
great.
so did Johnny Marr, too. He played at the Pony a few years ago, yeah.
He's played at the Pony a couple times. And
yeah.
his first time through, when it was Johnny Marr and the Healers, my band at the time, I'm never one to like beg or anything, but I remember us being like, we really need to open this show. We didn't get the opening slot.
Yeah.
I went anyway. Johnny Marr's guitar playing, when I first heard it, I think it was probably like The Queen is Dead or like one of those records. Or no, there was a specific compilation. It's called The Singles. The Smiths.
The
Singles.
Yeah.
That compilation, is probably the blueprint for my entire creative life. Stamped,
totally.
Done. And I could never play like Johnny Marr, but I would play power chords to the bass lines.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with REM, Peter Buck. I mean, his guitar playing a bit, maybe not as, I don't want to diss Peter Buck. I was going to say it's a little more basic, and that sounds shitty because it's not at all. But I could play some Peter Buck.
Yeah, it's more refined, I think.
And, all those guys, man. And The Cure. And when Disintegration came out, it was like, okay. And I was young, so that was like the late 80s or something. And I remember I was always friends with kids who were older, and they toured, I think it was that tour. They played Giant Stadium.
Oh, cool.
Is it still even called Giant Stadium? Is that like...
I think MetLife now.
All right, MetLife. Yeah. Thank you, bank. It was probably already corporatized anyway. This is just a name. I'm sure nothing's really changed in the world, but those older kids I knew were all going. I was like, Mom, I want to go see The Cure at Giant Stadium. She's like, there's absolutely no chance. So I was really, I don't know how old I was. You know, I was not old enough. And you know, of course, The Cure had this mystique, at least amongst a few parents I knew. Like, it was like dangerous because they felt like it was so depressing. They felt like we were all going to go there and like kill ourselves or something. Meanwhile, I reflect on that music. It is the most like sensitive love songs ever. It's like, oh, and you know, the Smiths too, though he's a lot more angsty. Yeah. Which is probably just a product of, you know, the time and being gay and wanting to sing about those things in a very repressed area like Manchester or whatever, and during that time. Now, you know, Morrissey would probably not be an angsty guy if he was making if the Smiths were like 20 years 30 years later, it'd probably be like, he'd be so happy. It'd probably write shitty music actually because of it. But I remember wanting so bad to go to the Giant Stadium to see The Cure. Disintegration, I think, I don't think I've listened to an album more than that album, because you can listen to it and study it, you can listen to it and sing along to it, and you could just put it on in the background and ignore the shit out of it, and it's right there with you on all three. And I finally got to see those guys. Like, that's awesome. It wasn't even that long ago. Like, crazy old as hell Cure. My wife took me, and I was like a little kid. I'm like, fucking Robert Smith. He's still coming out here. He's still got like this, like a rainstorm, like a volcanic eruption of hair. I saw an interview with him once, and someone was pressing him on his look. They're like, you know, because it's such a part of who they were, like how they looked was a huge part, and it's what scared my mom. Totally. She ripped down my poster. I had The Cure, but she's like, no more of this. You're acting too depressed. Yeah. You're wearing dark colors. And I was like still wearing like fluorescent colors in the 80s. So I'm like, Mom, you know, some people really look like freaking witches and monks. Like I'm like, I look like a skater dude. So it was totally misguided and it was hysterical. But someone was pressing him on his look, and you know what he said? He's like, honestly, like my wife, like she's in charge and she makes sure that like the look is there all the time.
That's awesome.
So like it's someone else telling him like, that's really cool. Robert, you better put on that fucking makeup. You better smear that lipstick just the right way and get that volcanic eruption. So it wasn't even like anything he cared about at some point. So the story goes, or so he tells it. Yeah. It's just his wife going, well, that's the image.
That's really cool though.
She probably makes him walk around like that all day in the house. Yeah. He tries to get into bed. His pillowcases are all fucked up.
That's great.
It's like one of those pillowcases after a long weekend. At any rate, yeah, that's funny. So we share the same genesis story.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Of music. Oh man, so much good music. Speaking of good music, you want to play a tune?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you want to play?
I think I'm gonna do "Happy." So it's not this next single, but the following single after that. I think it's coming out July 30th. Yeah.
All right, cool. Folks. July 30th. Happy. Getting released. Sonic Blume. Their new album's coming out in a couple weeks. I don't know when this is going to air. I don't have that much control over the universe. But Max Connery, Sonic Blume. Check out their music. Max, thanks for coming on the show. And why don't you close it out, man? Thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. I got you a sweater at the 5 and dime, but you didn't want it, so now it's mine and we're happy. I wrote you a song, I swear this one's the best, but you didn't like it, so it's trashed with the rest. But you're happy, so happy. Oh my God, I'm running out of ideas. I'm not a fan, but I'll keep handing out souvenirs. I keep lying just to bring you joy. You see through me, now I'm paranoid that I'll keep dying till I'm your boy. I could feel you were shaking right before we slept. You took back my sweater while I froze to death. Now you're dreaming. If we held it together and took more time, would we be here forever? 'Cause I'm terrified that you're happy, so happy. Oh my God, I'm running out of ideas. You're not a fan, but I'll keep handing out souvenirs. I keep lying just to bring you joy. You see through me, now I'm paranoid that I'll keep dying till you're happy. I just wanna live a happy life, but instead it feels like wasted time, and we're drifting further apart, aren't we? Yeah, we're falling pretty deep. Now you're talking